How's it going, guys, and welcome to another entry in our Community Cast series. In this match, we're going to have a showdown between the Gobbo King, who's going to be playing the Tomb Kings led by Ark in the Black, and he's going to be facing off against Viking Claw, who's going to be playing the Beastmen led by Morkr the Shadowgave. So let's jump right into this match, guys, and have some fun. So for the Gobbo King, in the front line, it looks like he does indeed have an entire core of Skeleton Spears, and I definitely like their synergy with the Ushabti. So despite their tooltip, they do indeed have charge defense against large, and they also have a good anti-large bonus, and for their cost, decent melee defense. So if the Beastmen decide to get Minotaurs or try and do cycle charging with Centaurs or things like that, these guys are going to be an okay front line. Obviously, they're really going to get taken to Pound Town by Bestigors, but basically they're just going to be holding the Bestigors in place, while the Ushabti with their armor piercing and anti-infantry do the heavy lifting. So an entire front line of Skeleton Spears. It looks like he does have how many groups of Ushabti? So he has 3 groups of those, and of course Ark in the Black is by far the most competitive pick for the Tomb King's Lords. I think Khalida is another pretty good choice, and Cetra situationally can be good, but just Lore of Death and just how powerful Fate of Bune is, and especially the Tomb Blade of Arkin, I mean, it gives a ton of healing, it heals constructs, so getting a big heal on like some Ushabti or a Kemrian War Sphinx or a Necro Sphinx is just so powerful. So I think if you're really trying to win tournaments and be super competitive, Ark in the Black is the way to go. So he does have that in the front line. He also has a Kemrian War Sphinx, who's going to be another good supplement to really taking down some of these Bestigor herds. And in the Kemrian War Sphinx, something I've learned relatively recently is he does also have missile attack. So against like Centaurs who are kind of trolling nearby, he can shoot them back with his 140 range. On top of that, he does have an HEIROKITIN. The HEIROKITIN is really a solid choice. Like in the beginning, I was like, oh, he just kind of gets like beaten by a lot of other large monsters, but he has so much utility. Spirit Leech, Shem's Burning Gaze is okay, but the best thing is the fact that he has, let me go ahead and show you guys, the Spirit Conduit. So this is going to increase your power reserves and your recharge rate, which is insanely powerful with, you know, how good Fate of Bune is. So you can get so many Fate of Bunes off in the course of a game here. You can see that Gobbo King's probably going to be getting one off in those Centaurs. In the back, he does have the Eyes of the Desert, anti-large, armor piercing, stock, so and a little bit of defense in the back line. They also do have ranged attack. Let's see what the range is. So these guys have 70 range, and oh, these guys actually have more range, so maybe they'll be able to do pretty good. Also, he does have King Nikesh's Scorpion Legion. So these guys, he's probably going to be using them in the back to just screen out Centaurs and, you know, have a good old time. So for Viking Claw, he does have a bunch of Centaurs with throwing axes, a very good choice. Armor piercing, mobile, great at taking down constructs if left unimpeded, and hence the reason why you can see the Gobbo Kings really going after them with Fate of Bune. So he has 4 of those, an entire front line of Bestigors, a couple of groups of Ungor Spearmen herds on the flanks to deal with Skeleton Horsemen and, you know, probably anything else that could potentially be threatening his flanks. I think he also has a couple of groups of Centaurs with great weapons, which I also really like. I think having like a ton of armor piercing is very necessary because you're pretty much always going to win the infantry battle versus the Tomb Kings, but what you really need is armor piercing to deal with constructs and War Sphinxes, Necro Sphinxes, Titans, all that kind of good stuff. Morkr the Shadowgave, he also has the Shadowcaster, so it looks like this guy's hoofing it, quite literally. He has the Withering and Enfeebling Foe. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road and have some fun. So immediately you can see Viking Cat coming in there, trying to get some freebies with some of these throwing axes. The Kemrian War Sphinx can shoot back, and you can see the Shem's Burning Gaze just blasting into that Bray Shaman. Not doing a lot, but hey, I mean, it's an ability that he comes with, so it's not really the end of the world. But it's, you know, no Ushabti Great Bow, so in terms of like his ability to counterfire here, it's just coming down to this Kemrian War Sphinx as well as the Eyes of the Desert. So the Gobbo King trying something a little bit different, pushing forward, but just look at how powerful Fate of Bune is. I mean, that's so obscenely powerful, and you can see those guys are immediately wavering, rocking 6 leadership, but, you know, Viking here getting some pretty good damage here on these Ushabti, and you can see the Gobbo King very wisely going to be pulling back here, you know, hiding behind the Skeleton Spears. So just kind of, you know, pushing up slowly, trying to close the distance. Viking is going to be pulling his guys up the hill, just trying to maximize the efficiency of his Centaurs and make sure he can get a ton of volleys off before the fighting really starts. Because Gobbo King with these Ushabti and the Kemrian War Sphinx and, you know, Ark in the Black is really most likely going to win this infantry fight. I mean, those guys are really just going to massacre the Bestigor herd. So he needs to get as much value as he can with these throwing axes. But definitely a good play by the Gobbo King here, just using Carrion. And the Carrion, like, muck them up. It just kind of, like, derails the whole plan. And on that same note, he is using King Nikesh's Scorpion Legion to screen these guys out. But Viking, obviously knowing, you know, he can get rid of these guys for free, is just going to collapse, and those Carrion are going to crumble. But ultimately buys a little bit of time. So we'll go ahead and fast forward here as the Tomb King's troops do advance up the hill. So the Bestigors get a nice little downhill charge. Obviously not much of a choice there, but the Ushabti do come in here and are going to start munching these guys relatively efficiently. And Ark in the Black is probably going to be putting that physical resist down, which is really going to, you know, mitigate the damage of these guys in the front line. Kemrian War Sphinx also going to be very strong. Armor piercing, anti-infantry, and even though it does say anti-infantry, I've seen the Kemrian War Sphinx do very good work against like large targets as well. So the HEIROKITIN a little bit out and alone on the side of the battlefield here, and you can see that Viking is going to be circling around with the throwing axes. So Gobbo definitely wants to grab this HEIROKITIN and run in here, and it looks like that's what he's doing. You can see he's force pathing it, not really bother fighting the Ungor Spearmen herds and things like that. So some of the Centaurs with great weapons were coming in, most likely to try and assassinate Arkin. But the trap has been sprung, so the Eyes of the Desert come out of stock, and with their anti-large, and I think they don't do poison on their melee attacks, I think it's just their ranged, they're able to take down a couple of these Centaurs. But basically there's just a giant Centaur train just kind of circling around and throwing axes, doing the best it can to take down the Ushapti. And you can see he does drop the Withering, which is going to lower their leadership, which could potentially make them crumble a little bit faster. But the Tomb Blade of Arkan is going to go off and gets a fat, just juicy, erect heal right in his pocket. It's going to be hitting all of these troops, just heavily mitigating a lot of the damage that has already been done to these Ushapti. The Tomb Blade is such a good item. And you can see that Morkr, the Shadowgate, did have some troops here, but the Bestigors who were protecting Morkr and standing on top of him just got taken to Pound Town by some of those Khemrian War Sphinxes and the Ushapti here. So Morkr's kind of alone right now, and he's just taking a lot of damage from the Khemrian War Sphinx. And you can see the big daddy Titans coming in. He's just marching in. Just Dad. So Dad's coming in. He's going to give the business over here to Morkr, the Shadowgate. And it's going to be tough, guys. It's going to be tough. So let's go ahead and take a look at the outskirts here. You can see Viking doing a pretty good job getting the Eyes of the Desert. These throwing axes should be able to chip them down pretty quickly here. There's also some Ungor Spears with their anti-large, kind of holding them in place. But the balance of power is still very, very even. And Realm of Souls Tier 3 hasn't come yet, so there is going to be a healing for 21 seconds going off. And then on top of that, there's going to be a new Ushapti summon coming down. So there's still some wild cards to be had here. Also, Spirit Leech going down in the Bray Shaman, and Arkan is just cackling and fighting him up here in the hill. Man, Arkan is not a bad duelist. 450 weapon strength for like a caster, and man, he just slayed that guy so hard. That was brutal. So the Iron Titan now is probably just going to, have his way with Morkr the Shadowgate down here in the pits. Morkr is a decent duelist in his own right with regeneration. You can see the Vigor Mortis, or Libra Mortis, I think is what it's called, going down right here. Going to give that physical resist. And in the meantime, though, Vikings still doing some pretty good drive-bys here with the Centaurs. And what are they throwing at? Looks like they are using a little bit of ammunition on those Skeleton Spears, which is tough. But, they could potentially pick off these Ushapti here. So that's something that's been going pretty well. A lot of Skeleton Spears and the Nikesh's Legion were able to screen these guys out. But there still is a bit of ammunition. They're all at about half. These ones are at 60%. And they might be able to take down some of these Ushapti here with the throwing axes. And you can see a couple of those models getting pinged down there. I love their animations when they fall. It's pretty ridiculous. But still, Bounce of Power is pretty much dead even. Granted, the Ushapti summon could be coming in here. I think Gobbo King might be saving it just for that really close, important fight. And somehow, some way, Morkr the Shadowgate is still alive. You can see a Spirit Leech is going to be going down from Ark in the Black. The Khemrian War Sphinx is in really good shape. The Iron Titan's in good shape. But there still is a lot of armor piercing. But if Gobbo King is able to run these Centaurs out of ammunition, there's going to be nothing that can kill these Titans and the War Sphinxes. And I think that might be what happens. I mean, the ammunition's in okay shape. It looks like Viking has taken them off fire at will, so they're going to be conserving their ammunition, only throwing when they're given orders, which is definitely a very good play there. And Ark in the Black and this very heavy pocket of Tomb King's troops are just fighting here in the middle. Obviously, the Beastmen troops, the Bestigors, and other guys are really working down the chaff. There's some Skeleton Spears left, but it looks like it's almost all constructs, which is pretty much the case of every one of these games. So Spirit Leech going down on Morkr, he's trying to hoof it away, about 600 HP, and it looks like Viking is going to be sending in the Bestigors right here, who are probably just going to get monster mashed by the Khemrian War Sphinxes, and he's also pulling in some of these Centaurs with great weapons, just doing everything he can to save Morkr. And Morkr still has a lot of ways towards his healing cap, so he potentially, if done carefully, could heal up another 1,000, 2,000 HP over the course of this battle. So the Bounce of Power is in the favor of the Gobbo King at this point, with Morkr having been pushing off. The Bestigors really just getting taken out by the Khemrian War Sphinx and some of those other troops. Over here on this side of the battlefield, though, 69 Bestigors, that's what she said. And also some of these Centaurs with throwing axes have been able to clean up the chaff. So at the very least, that will allow a lot of the constructs and other troops to be isolated. But he doesn't have a ton of armor piercing left. And I mean, this is 110 armor. You have, how much on the Khemrian War Sphinx? 110 as well. These Ushapti are 100, so there's so much armor to get through. Right here, though, some of these Ushapti getting taken out. You see Gobbo's going to try and turn around and get some of those guys. It looks like he does clip a couple Centaurs, but for the most part, these Ushapti here are probably going to start crumbling, sitting at 7 or 0 leadership, mind you. Probably going to get taken down. So Morkr the Shadowgate in the back at about 500 HP, slowly regenerating, but you can see he rallies. He might be able to come back, but he's probably out of Chaos Spawn summons. As you guys know, Morkr did get heavily nerfed. He can only do it twice now instead of 4 times, which is probably fair. It was pretty darn powerful before. So the Centaur is still trying to find a home. Gobbo King using the Skeleton Spears to kind of screen those guys out. Now he's just going to form a bit of a Helm's Deep here. Just kind of like, okay, I can't catch you, so obviously you're just going to have to run yourself out of ammunition or fight a little bit. And it looks like the Centaurs might be coming in for some sort of a charge. Now they're just going after the Iron Titan, doing some pretty good damage, but there might be a Tomb Blade of Arkan left. But man, look how quickly that Iron Titan gets burned down by these great weapons, or the throwing axes, excuse me. And yeah, Centaur's just having a good old time, and they're actually maintaining their focus really well. And so he must have that fire at will turned off, where it's just going to, target whatever he's rapidly clicking here. So Gobbo King does activate the Libra Mortis, giving himself 44% physical resist to his big kind of a posse here. And at the same time, he's trying to get these Skeleton Spears in front of this big pack. So let's go ahead and take a look at ammo. One group's about to run out. These guys are all running low on ammo, which is really dicey because there's still a full health Khemrian War Sphinx. The bounce power is coming back to the middle a little bit as that HEIROKITIN does get dragged down and Morker heals up. So Morker is at about 800 HP. So right now we're just going to fast forward a little bit because there's some kiting and fighting here. You can see that the Centaur is just trying to optimize their ammunition, really drag these guys down. Bounce of power is coming back towards the middle a little bit, but you can see the Gobbo King does smell blood in the water. He's going to be coming for Morker's goodies. But ultimately, yeah, like the ammo's almost out here. And these guys, like aside from their throwing axes, let's see what their AP is. So 32 weapon strength and only 7 armor piercing damage. So I feel like once they run out, they're not going to be able to do much. So the HEIROKITIN just waddling after, just doing his best. Arkin's just going to be chasing these guys down. And yeah, a lot of these guys are almost out. I think that one's out right here. These guys are at about 5 to 10% ammunition. But the Beastmen are rallying over here. So there's a bunch of Bestigors and other troops here that are going to be gathering for the fourth quarter. And, you know, Bestigors, even though they're meant versus infantry, still do have really good armor piercing ratios. But, I mean, instantly the terror-causing Khemrian War Sphinx is just going to come in just like a happy puppy and just stomp all over those guys. But these two shopped here are probably going to go down, but the Titan has, 5,000 HP. This Khemrian War Sphinx has about 5,000. Arkin's in great shape here, and, probably is going to have another Tomb Blade of Arkin here relatively soon. So the final battle's underway. You can see the HEIROKITIN just going full-on sci-fi with his laser eyes and stomping these guys out. I don't know, like, I love watching the Mammoths, but watching an HEIROKITIN fight is, like, truly a treat. Just how ridiculous it is with its, like, laser eyes and everything. I mean, I think it's pretty darn hard to beat that. So right now, these guys are getting pushed off here. You can see Arkin the Black coming in. Maybe saving that Tomb Blade, I'm not sure, but it looks like a Spirit Leech going down a Morker and just cycle charging coming in. Just the last dying throws of the Beastmen just swarming in, trying to get the spears, maybe get some sort of a, crumbling going on, but I think it's going to be too hard as Arkin the Black does have his skeletal clutches on Morker, the Shadow Gave here in the pit, so he just got knocked out right there. You see axes flying in, just all kinds of shenanigans, but at this point, I think the Beastmen are probably just going to rout off. They just simply do not have enough stopping power to deal with those big constructs. So very well played to both players. It was a very close game. There was a couple of very pivotal points there, catching Morker and, really focusing his Fate of Bune and his Ushapti to crumble his protection and then take him out because obviously Morker can't keep up with the pacing of the Centaurs and other troops like that. But yeah, it was a good composition. It was cool seeing the Eyes of the Desert. I haven't seen them used too much, but they can outrange the throwing axes. And if you do run into like Gorbals and build like that who's using Minotaurs, these guys are going to be very solid. AP range, anti-large, and melee, so some good utility there. Just kind of preparing for other builds. Khemrian War Sphinx, a Terror in the Night, the HEIROKITIN didn't get the most kills, but it's just like this, kind of inexorable presence you have to really deal with on the battlefield. So, and Arkin the Black, obviously the best choice by far. So for Vikings build, I liked Morker. The best scores were good. I mean, maybe you just cut one best score, I think. Like, having 3 in the front line is going to win, like, any engagement versus Tomb Kings. You don't really have to worry. Maybe cut one of these guys and get, like, some sort of a, even another throwing axe could have been useful or some sort of an anti-large tool. But, if you're committing that heavily to Centaurs, the throwing axes, which I do think is a good idea, and it could have potentially worked if the screening hadn't been, efficient with skeleton spears and things like that. Maybe you invest in another one of these. It's hard to say. Like, I feel like it's pretty hard to get to those constructs, but the throwing axes, I think, are the right direction. You can see they were starting to work things down, but ultimately they just ran out of ammunition. So maybe going with another one of those, cutting the Vestigor herd. And let's see, the Shadows was pretty good. Morker is a pretty good choice as well. But yeah, I haven't really played this matchup too much from the Beastmen perspective, but I really feel like Centaurs with throwing axes with a couple Vestigors is going to be pretty darn good. And you could potentially get, well, when they get their regiments for now too, getting the Bestigor herd with anti-large armor piercing is going to be really, really good in this matchup. But yeah, very well played to the Gobbo King and Viking Claw. Make sure to go check out Gobbo King's YouTube channel, guys. He sent this replay over. Definitely some good stuff. Awesome high-level player and a cool dude. And Viking Claw, I think that's Viking Cat. I'm not 100% sure, but I know he streams over on Twitch. So if I can find a link to his Twitch channel, I'll absolutely put it in the comment section below. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care.